worth it.
You were famously invited to join Metallica and of course Anthrax. And so number one, I wanted to know how long did you weigh the decision to not join Metallica? And then number two, were you ever invited by any other bands that we'd be familiar with to join as frontman?
He's going to play in somebody else somewhere. Well, okay. So, this story has been told many times, but it's okay. It's important, I guess, for me to clarify my position in it.
Please.
Just because, I was a person. So, I can't remember exact time. I think if I had to really sit back and think about it, I could probably figure it out for the most part. But generally, I would say it was in 1982 that when that talk started happening, because Saint was doing club shows in 82. And then by 83, we started playing, a little bit bigger shows and more shows. And that it was already kind of off the map or off the, offer at that point with Metallica. But, we started getting popular. We started, Armored Saint started happening. We were really pretty creative in the way we promoted our band at that time. We passed out thousands of flyers, probably did a lot of littering, unfortunately, because people were like, let's do it away. So we ended up contributing to litter. But we were really savvy in the way we marketed our band, and we just got out there and promoted. And this is kind of before bands were doing that, but we really, really took it to another level. And we started getting big quick in LA. And that was around the time that Metallica came to me. Now, Metallica certainly had, their popularity was much bigger than Saints was, because they were more on a global level, because I think the No Life to Leather cassette was out there already, just generating tons of buzz. Mm-hmm. But they were, well, this was before Kill 'Em All, so they really didn't. I don't know if they had an official record deal, or they started to get the deal with Megaforce, because that's why Johnny Z would call me. He was the manager at the time in the label, right? So they started, they finally got their first record deal. But what I always tell people is that Metallica was great, and I loved Metallica, and they were cool, and we aspired to be like Metallica, and we saw what they were doing, and we were like, yeah, they're doing the right thing, sending out demos and just generating all this buzz internationally, But I was happy in my band, and I was friends with my band, and I always say that the relationship that was between me, Joey, Gonzo, and Phil, goes back to we were about 8 or 9 years old. Now, at that point, we were like 18, so it was only like 10 years, right? Now it's over 50, which is insane. Yeah. But like, we were friends, and we were like doing well. So it didn't, as much as I was flattered, it didn't really make me go, well, I'm going to leave my band. Like, well, I just seemed like, I don't want to leave my band. I like my band, and we're doing good. And yeah. It just didn't, it wasn't logical. Of course, I always say as well that, I would have changed, talk about pressure. I would have changed the whole face of metal if James Hetfield wasn't the lead vocalist and the frontman of Metallica. If it was me, like I might have ruined it, because like Metallica went on to become this, the biggest band in the world, and created this whole vibe by doing so for so many other bands, and yes, helped out everybody's career by doing it. It would have changed everything, because they would have been a 5-piece band. James would have been rhythm guitar. It was not meant to be, for James not to be the singer and the frontman of that band. And I always felt that, like, well, James is great. Like, he's the singer. Like, they shouldn't get me or anyone else. Like, it's, and I always say that the level of vocal talent that James demonstrated through the years was incredible. Because if you listen to Kill 'Em All, and I know everyone loves Kill 'Em All, but his voice was a certain way. And then by the time Master was out, he had grown so much as a singer, like
that.
Tremendously. And then by the Black Album was a whole nother level. So, he really is an amazing singer and was able to kind of become himself and doing so. And, I think maybe at that point, maybe he was a little unsure still and insecure and no, am I the front guy? Am I, should I be the front man or the singer? But it was the right decision for everyone.
He talks about it, candidly sometimes, I think, about like how, first it was guitar, he didn't feel that good about his guitar playing, which probably would make him and Lars be like, well, let's find a singer, and then da 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 da. And until then, you just kind of use what you got, and they didn't know, just like you didn't know, and no one knew that.
Yeah.
You stay at it and look, fuck, what happened? It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's
that
like, and you could relate it. You could relate it to the same thing. It's like the world needed Megadeth, and we didn't know we needed Megadeth. And if Mustaine wouldn't have had that somewhat of a falling out in that camp, there would be no fucking Megadeth. That needed to happen. I've talked.
Right. And I always say that too, because like as much as Dave and, he for a long time, it seemed like he was pretty bitter about what happened with Metallica. The fact is you were able to go have your own band where you were the front man.
Yeah.
And if he was never going to be the front man in Metallica, he was going to be the lead guitar player. So I completely agree with you. What that did is it created two bands that had a big impact on metal, huge impact, of course, and allowed both those guys to become frontmen. And that was really important and for them and for metal, So, and if you would have had John Bush and Metallica, would have had that. If you would have had Dave Mustaine staying in Metallica, you wouldn't have had Megadeth. So these are things, not that I'm the most spiritual guy in the world. I am a little bit, but like that was fate. That was meant to be. And, it just wasn't meant to be for me to be there. And so it's when people ask me, for one, it was so long ago and the bands were so in their embryonic stage that it was kind of didn't really matter, then. It wasn't like, I always say that like it would have been much harder for me not to join Anthrax because years went by then after that point, and careers had already started and records were made. And
you're talking 90s when things had changed by then anyway. For Armored Saint and Anthrax.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways, guitar players, singers, whatever.
Death, Dave dying.
Yeah, exactly.
So like a lot of life had already been lived. And by the time, when Metallica came to me, and I guess it was late 82, somewhere in that ballpark, we were all just wet behind the ears kids. We didn't know anything. So like, we hadn't got the chance to live yet at that point. Still very,
One of the things I've always admired about Armored Saint is, you mentioned it earlier, you guys have been friends since you were, 8 years old or something like that. And that loyalty has stayed. I mean, you guys are, very unusual in that regard, that you've maintained that level of loyalty all these years later. And I just think that's really cool because you don't often see a brotherhood like that last through all the ups and downs, and life gets in the way and all this other stuff. And you just put out 3 albums in the last few years with Armored Saint. And I don't think a lot of bands can say that they've maintained that brotherhood all that, for those decades.